Hi, everybody.
Sorry we're late.
Sorry, that is completely my fault. I actually slept in. I really wanted to make the stream on time, but I was up in the office till about 3:30 a.m. last night, keeping an eye on the servers. And wouldn't you know it, about 20 minutes after I left, we had a server issue. So, servers, what can you do? They've fixed themselves for now, but we've got everyone, the whole team is
Actually,
looking at that
our
today.
engineers already looked at it and fixed it. So
Yeah, it's for the technical folks of you out there. We've implemented a cache to help stop things like wins counting as losses. We have a cache to stop double messages coming through, and it looked like the cache filled up. It hasn't been filling up. We've been running it for 2 weeks. It's been fine, but something on the weekend caused that cache to fill up, caused the server to spin up more servers, and then caused too many connections to our database, and bam, the whole thing goes crazy for 15, 20, 30 minutes. So we're looking at that today, and we'll have a fix for that later today, I suspect.
yeah.
I was hoping it would happen last night while I was in the office and I could actually watch what was going on. But not the case. Anyway, I'm Syrian. This is Nimhain.
For anyone who hasn't joined us.
We're going to talk to you a little bit today about the next update, the Underworld update. We've got some questions and answers and a few other things as well probably we're talking about.
Yes.
And you guys should feel free to throw some answers into chat while we go as well. And we'll
try to answer the best
try to
we
answer
can.
those as well. Yeah. We've got Ella, Salty. Salty's sitting controlling things for us, so you may hear her yell out some questions into the mic, and if she does, we'll try to answer those.
I've also got a giant coffee with
If we start answering a question you haven't heard it, let us know in chat, and we'll try to repeat the questions. We think Salty will be able to reach the mic from where she is.
Yeah. So this is a new setup we're trying.
Yeah. So let's have at it. What's our first question for the Q&A?
Why the Underworld?
So why the Underworld?
Why Underworld? Well, why did we do Underworld?
Yeah, so as everyone knows, we kind of got to a point where like we can't fit any more kingdoms on this map. It is pretty much full.
Yeah.
So probably about a year ago, I think it was, we started discussing where are we going to go next. Yeah,
when we first started Gems of War, we thought, well, we can fit about 31 kingdoms on here, and we planned out 31 kingdoms, and I think we managed to fit 34 in the end.
34 as soon as Sin of Maraj comes out.
Yes, the Sin of Maraj will be out this
Friday.
So don't miss that. There's some really cool stuff coming there. We figured about 31 kingdoms turned to 34 kingdoms would fit, and we would need somewhere to go. Like when you make a free-to-play game, you don't know if it's going to last 1 year, 3 years, 10 years. No one really knows how long these things last because it's kind of new. So we made enough space for 3 years of content, and we've managed to squeeze about 3 3/4 years out of that space. But the space is up. We could keep adding stuff in, but there's other problems with that, aren't there?
Yeah, so when we were discussing, do we want to go left, right? Do we want to expand the world so it's beyond what you see of Kristara so far, we realized that adding more kingdoms actually introduced a new problem, which is more kingdoms means less chance to have the weekly events. 34 kingdoms in only 52 weeks means, on average, each kingdom gets about 2 events a year. Yeah,
and some kingdoms miss out. I think we hadn't had a Karakop event for about almost a year when we had the last one.
Yes.
So sometimes things slip aside and we miss them. So we didn't want to keep adding kingdoms because in another 3 years' time we don't want it to be 70 or 68 weeks between events. That would suck. Yeah. So we thought let's do a revisiting of the kingdoms. Let's make a new land that's attached to the world, but separate from the world, so it doesn't feel like it needs to be full of kingdoms. It can be full of something else.
Yes.
That kind of left us a choice of going up or down.
And when we felt going down was more really epic adventure-y, something you feel like when you go play like Dungeons or Dragons or just any kind of standard RPG.
Yeah, I remember that feeling I first got when I first played the Underdark in D&D many years ago.
Or the Undermountain under
Undermountain, and found those places, and they were really, really cool and full of all sorts of civilizations and stuff to explore. So we wanted to try to recapture that kind of feeling in the Underworld.
Yes. So also, one of the other issues we have with doing kingdoms is because they're so big and there's so much content in them with the big quests, there's 8 or more troops. It meant that to fit one in, we were doing them every 2-3 months. So when we decided, okay, we're going down, we decided, can we make these new mini kingdoms, as we were calling them, smaller, and get them out more often. So that's why we came up with the faction idea.
So yeah, factions are these little groups that live in the underworld. They're like the first two factions we're releasing with are the All-Seeing Eye, which is kind of like a group of beholders. You can see the background for that behind us, actually. There's the doorway into the Temple of the Eye just over my left shoulder. And what's the other faction we're releasing with? Hall of Guardians?
Hall of Guardians.
Hall of Guardians, which is a long-lost hall that guards some secrets that was lost many, many years ago from Whitehelm. And we're releasing with these two, and we'll be coming out with one faction a month. And each faction consists of 4 troops and a whole bunch of stuff to do, which has a little mini quest. And a thing called a delve, which we're going to talk about a little later in the talk, I think.
And I think some of you guys have probably seen little sneak peeks we've been posting over social.
Some of you guys might have been in the community beta as well, so you'll definitely seen how the delves work. And we're getting some good feedback from you guys, and we've been able to make a few adjustments to the delves, improve them a little bit before release. But the game is submitted now. It's off to Sony and Xbox, and this will be a couple of weeks away. It takes a while to get stuff through the consoles at the moment, but in a couple of weeks, 2, 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. I think it's around the beginning of next month sometime.
Somebody would like to know, will new players need to open all the Crystara kingdoms before they can access the Underworld?
No.
Great question. Yeah. No, great question. No.
No, the answer is no. You will not need to open every single kingdom above ground to go down.
You do need to open the Sin of Maraj, though. The Sin of Maraj, the storyline there actually opens the gateway to the Underworld. And once you've played the quest line in Sin of Maraj, you have full access to any content that's released in the Underworld, and you can access that in any order you wish.
Yeah, there's, unlike above ground where you have to unlock a certain kingdom before the next kingdom unlocks, these will just open up, so we can go anywhere in the Underworld and open any kingdom. They don't need to be next to each other.
Yeah.
One more question on this, if that's okay.
Yep.
Will some factions be different versions of the above world races, such as will there be cave elves, things like that?
So everyone, hopefully everyone heard that question is, will the factions be like alternative versions of above ground kingdoms? So factions are going to be related to above ground kingdoms,
but not necessarily just versions of them. So it's not just there won't be just the underground high elves and the underground dark elves.
No.
So if we look at every single faction relates back to a kingdom on the world map. Take the Hall of Guardians, for example. That's tied to Whitehelm. Those troops in that kingdom, the 4 troops there, belong to the Hall of Guardians, but they also belong to Whitehelm. So they will count for gaining kingdom power in the Whitehelm kingdom.
Yes, when you collect them.
Exactly.
However, they are not necessarily just more designs or more knights or anything like that.
No, Hall of Guardians is in fact a kingdom full of golems who are guarding this ancient treasure.
Yeah.
And they harken back to the early days of Whitehelm and its god Guard.
Yes.
So, whereas the All-Seeing Eye is a group of beholders who aren't really allied with
we kind of call them Ocularan.
Ocularan, yes. I'm just calling them beholders so you guys know what we're talking about. But we've called them Ocularan. The Ocularan aren't really part of Darkstone, but they have some relationship to Darkstone, which I won't spoil for you. So by getting those Ocularan and leveling them and putting their traits on, you're actually gaining kingdom power for Darkstone.
Yeah.
Would you like the next one?
Let's go to the next question.
Will we continue to do new kingdoms as well as factions?
So, new kingdoms as well as factions. Well, we're going to focus on factions for now.
Yeah.
Actually, we've kind of filled the map with kingdoms. And as we mentioned, we don't want to add too many more kingdoms, mainly because we just don't want the events getting further and further apart. That's not to say we won't add a kingdom in future. I'm going to guess that at some stage something's going to happen and we're going to go, hey, we'd really like a kingdom for that, and we'll probably fit 1 or 2 more in.
Yes, there's a few places we know we can probably sneak a few more kingdoms in.
And we had an idea for a couple of kingdoms, didn't we? That we just never realised before we kind of ran out of space. So there's some things there we'd like to add, and the new map, the lovely new map. If you guys have seen the screenshots with the new graphics, we've got a new 3D map particle effects and animated water. It looks really, really nice. It's done at double the resolution of the old map, so it's a lot more crisp. So it means there's a bit more space between the other kingdoms if we do want to fit something in. But don't expect any new kingdoms for the next 12 months, I would say.
The question is, do we need to level up factions the way we do kingdoms?
Do we need to level up factions the way we do kingdoms?
No.
No. So factions don't work the same way as above ground kingdoms is the short answer.
So there's no level on a faction like a kingdom, and there's no power on a faction like a kingdom.
Yeah.
Factions, because they're in the underworld and they're kind of dungeons with monsters in them, they have a couple of unique things. One of those is renown.
Yes.
You gain renown in a faction by doing the delve, which is a special battle you can do down there. And by doing harder and harder delves, you gain more and more renown. And that's kind of like a leveling system for the faction.
Yeah.
Also, factions have a treasure hoard. You can get treasures from doing delves, and by feeding treasures into a faction's treasure hoard, its treasure hoard grows, and you get bonuses when you're playing in that faction doing the delve. So there's a couple of ways of leveling it, like the above ground kingdoms, but they're different.
So next big one?
Yeah, let's go to the next big question.
Oh, that was the wrong one.
Hey, are factions exactly like kingdoms? If not, what's the difference?
We should have done those the other way. Right. Oops. Yeah. Well, there are a few other differences as well. Factions come with a banner, so we're going to keep releasing the 3 color banners, one for every faction, and you get that as soon as you unlock a faction.
We're keeping that. That's going to be very similar to the way kingdoms work. You still spend gold to unlock a faction the same way.
And it's about 3,000 or 4,000 gold to unlock, I think, isn't it? Yes, something like that. What else? You only get 4 troops in a faction. We're not sure if we're going to add more troops to a faction.
We may in the future, but at the moment, one of the really good things about only doing 4 troops is we've designed the troops so they work as a team.
Yeah, and each faction has a team that plays in an interesting way. So if you collect those 4 troops, instant team with team bonuses, and they'll pick up bonuses from both the faction and the kingdom. Yeah. Each faction has a pet.
Yes.
And you can unlock that pet by getting lots of renown.
And there's also going to be a faction weapon, but again, you need to get. I think you can either craft it or you can get it
from the faction event. Yep. And that weapon actually belongs to the kingdom associated with the faction, not the faction itself.
What we call the sister kingdom.
Yeah.
So the All-Seeing Eye faction weapon technically belongs to Darkstone.
So it helps with getting kingdom power in Darkstone. We understand people really want to get the kingdom power up now that we've got the new system. So we wanted the faction system to kind of feed into that kingdom power, which is working pretty nicely.
Do factions also get tributes?
Do factions get tributes? No. However, they do give other sorts of bonuses, but we won't go into too much detail right now.
Yeah, I don't want to get into the weeds and kind of add up all the numbers.
But it is tied into renown, but not just the faction renown, but the renown for the Underworld as a whole. Yeah,
so factions, they don't have an income like your kingdom. Kingdom has a passive income to your gold, and it has the chance to tribute every time you collect your gold every hour. Factions do not work in that system at all. They're not part of that system. You will get gold from doing delves, and by gaining renown and adding treasures to your hoards, you can increase that gold coming from delves.
Yeah.
A little bit different and kind of on theme, on brand with what a faction is too. A faction isn't someone who's allied with you. No. It's something you've discovered in the Underworld, so it's not really sending you a tribute.
And the other thing as well is when you hit certain renown milestones with a faction, it will give you a once-off reward, very similar to the way that reaching pet mastery will give you rewards.
Yes.
Would you like to go to the next one?
Yes, please.
Yes.
All right, so the next big question is there anything different about Underworld troops?
Is there anything different about Underworld troops?
Well, we got them all. They kind of work in a team.
Is the main thing.
Yeah.
Some people may have gotten to see when we had that little window where there's some new traits coming which work specifically in delves. That's going to be something unique only to Underworld troops. Yeah,
because one of the ways to gain renown in a faction is to use that faction's troops to take into a delve.
Yeah.
And that's worth extra points towards your renown if you're doing that. There's a specific point award for that.
What I will say with that is that trait only triggers when you're attacking a delve, so you don't have to worry about if you encounter those troops as enemies, they won't get that bonus.
No, only when you're using it as a player.
Yeah.
There is one other really odd troop in the Underworld, which is the treasure. So we mentioned these treasures you can add to your treasure hoard. Treasures are actually, they're cards like troops. And there's 6 different treasures you can get: a common, a rare, an ultra rare, epic, legendary, and mythic. Obviously the mythic ones are very, very rare, but they're worth a lot of points if you put them in your treasure hoard. And you can ascend these treasures if you want. If you're the person like me who wants to ascend everything, you can do it, but they're not worth any more points in your treasure hoard if you ascend them. It's only a thing you do if you have OCD.
They also don't really gain many bonuses from ascending them.
Question.
Yes.
Are the delves daily and are they sigil based?
Are the delves daily?
So we're giving you 3 delves a day.
Yeah.
And a delve is potentially between about 4 and 10 battles. We'll talk a little bit about how delves work, actually.
I'm sure there's a question later in the thing, but we'll go into depth now.
Let's just do it while we're talking about delves, and we can just skip that question when we come to it.
Yeah.
So delves between about 3 and 10 battles. It's as many battles as you want to make it. You can race through in 3, or you can just do the whole thing and try to get a bit more reward. But there's a risk reward associated with delves. I'll let Nim tell you a little bit about it.
So when you go into the delves, you will face rooms, and these rooms are preset teams that will level up as the delve gets harder.
So think of a delve a little bit like a dungeon from playing a role-playing game. Okay. It's a series of connected rooms, and you've got to progress through to the boss room.
And each room has a chance to either increase your delve chest, which will give you all your loot when you finish, or it has a chance to increase your treasure bonus, which multiplies the reward.
It doesn't have a chance. It does that every single time.
Yes, true.
But the rooms are kind of themed with set groups of troops in them, which kind of work together as a team. Some of them are very heavily themed. Some of them are actually really good teams. And the rarity of the room tells you kind of the quality of the team involved inside.
The other thing is the risk that we're talking about is if a troop dies, it is permanently removed from your team for that delve.
Yes, so you have to be careful. If you get into a room and one of your troops is killed in that room, you're now fighting the rest of the delve with 3 troops.
Yes.
So summoners become particularly useful.
Yes. You can retreat at any time and you will not miss out on any treasure, but the delve's over.
Yeah, but if you can get to the boss room, there's always a big multiplier and an increase to your delve chest in the boss room. So it's always worth doing the boss room if you can.
There's also a couple of what we call very rare rooms, which are treasure rooms, which will give you really good rewards if you can find them. And defeat them.
So it's kind of fun. It's kind of like doing a dungeon in a role playing game.
Yeah.
It's got that kind of vibe to it. There's a small restriction on troops. Each faction has colours like a kingdom with a banner. So if it's a green-brown faction, you can only take troops into the delve with green and brown in them, which will incidentally be every troop from that faction. But also, it's about 1/3 of the troops. So there's a small restriction on troops you can take in. That just kind of keeps it interesting. Means you can't just take the latest meta team into every single delve.
Yeah.
It makes the team composition kind of interesting for each delve.
Yes.
And means you have to be a little bit careful. My tactic is to kind of push my way to just short of the boss room as quickly as possible, and then I explore some side rooms, and if I lose a troop or 2, I might just do the boss room and try to finish it off.
Yeah.
But if you lose, if you get killed in a room, you don't lose anything. You just leave the delve with what you've currently accumulated.
Yeah.
We didn't want to punish you for losing.
No
one wants to spend 10-15 minutes on a thing and then come out with nothing. That's not cool.
Next one?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. What happens when the underworld is full?
So what happens when the underworld is full?
Can we do the underworld?
The underworld. We could always go down to the infernal plane.
Or the overworld. My feeling is that I'm really enjoying the underworld, so I think you guys are going to enjoy it too.
Yeah.
I think when the underworld is full, we'd probably look at doing another kind of underworld, maybe an elemental plane, maybe the abyssal plane, maybe
where the mad gods come from.
Some other realm with a separate map. And I think that'd be a really cool way to go. But we'll see. We'll listen to your feedback when you guys get Underworld. We'll see what happens there. And No doubt we wouldn't copy it exactly if we went to it and did a new one in another 3 years' time or 2 or 3 years' time. Who knows? We seem to accelerate with things in this game sometimes. But and we'd make up for the new area. Would make its own set of rules. But yeah, I think we'd probably look at doing a similar thing.
Yeah.
Next one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ooh. Will the Underworld have more pets?
Will the Underworld have more pets? Yes, most definitely. We love pets. You love pets. Everyone loves pets. A pet for you. A pet for you. Pet for everyone. No, we did want to make sure that because we do have factions and they will have their own team bonuses for the individual faction, that they would have a pet for that faction.
There's also a pet if you can get lots and lots of Underworld factions, and this is like a long-term goal. Okay, it's going to take like 2 or 3 years to complete this. But we know some of you guys have been around for 3 years already, and you guys are awesome. We love that. We hope you'll be with us for a long time more.
Yes,
and we're certainly going to keep trying to feed you great stuff to make that happen. But if you can unlock most of the kingdoms in the Underworld and get their renown really high, we have this thing that shows your total renown. It starts to unlock a special pet you can only get with that high renown.
Yes.
Do we know what that pet is?
I don't think we do yet.
We haven't decided what that pet is yet, so stay tuned.
Yeah, we're still working on exactly what represents.
Won't be able to be unlocked for a couple of years anyway, but that's one special pet.
We're still designing it.
And you know, there seems to be quite an appetite for pets out there, so there'll be more pets, not just in the Underworld. We're going to have more.
4.0 is actually just going to be releasing. I think it's 5 new pets into the wild with pet gnomes.
Yeah.
Which are going to be very similar to the snow bunny.
Oh, do you want to tell us what a couple are?
So we've got a little moth called Flutter. There is a firefly in a jar called Bright Beetle.
Bright Beetle.
I love Bright Beetle. So we've got the small paca.
Oh, it's like a little alpaca. Looks like it's getting.
It's got really huge eyes. It looks totally surprised. It's really, really funny.
It looks like it's having a prostate exam. It looks really uncomfortable when it stares at me.
And there's the Pudling.
Yes.
Yes, which is, and what's the other one? Tanglebush, which is this little plant monster thing.
Yes. Yes, so they're going to be new, and they're going to be in the pet gnomes in 4.0.
Yes, so they'll work very similar to the snow bunny. They give bonuses to coloured masteries.
We'll probably do some events over those at some time too, won't we?
Yes, but there's one at least later in.
And don't forget Dragon Kitty's coming out. The community designer pack.
Yes, that is actually coming. We will be sending that out to everyone.
I believe there may be more Dragon Kitties in the works too.
Oh yes.
Our artist really liked drawing Dragon Kitty, Ashland. She had a really great time drawing that.
Oh
and last week I saw her doing more Dragon Kitties.
Yes.
So I think she was just doing that for fun. So I think Dragon Kitty may get some siblings.
Collect them all?
Yeah. Gotta catch all the Dragon Kitties.
It's like the War Corgi now has a sibling as well, but unfortunately wasn't ready in time for.
My mum thought it was called Dragon Kitty.
A Dragon Kitty?
Yeah, she didn't realise it was 2 words Dragon Kitty put together. She thought it was Dragon Kitty. She says, "What's this Dragon Kitty?" I'm like, "What? Dragon Kitty, okay." You win the award for mispronunciation, Mum. Well done.
More than Tacit?
Yeah. Dragon Kitty is a good one, I think.
Yeah. All right, did we want to do the next question?
Next big one. Oh, why? Are you planning on updating guilds soon? If so, how?
We are planning on updating guilds. Guilds is one of the next things on our list, actually.
Yes.
We have lots of things we want to do to guilds. And I don't want to... Some of it's going to be spread over probably the next couple of updates.
Just because there's a lot of little stuff and big stuff, so we've got to pick and choose when we're going to do certain things.
Yeah. So a couple of the things, a couple of little things. We just want to make guild management easier.
Yes.
Guild management it's fiddly at the moment. It's not nice. If a guild master leaves the guild, which happens, it doesn't happen in the top guilds, but it happens in some of the mid guilds. If a guild master just stops playing, that's a problem, and they can't invite and kick people. So we're going to get a system of inactivity that will mark inactive players, and inactive players will be allowed to be thrown out of the guild.
Yeah, so that should help.
That'll help people remove the guild masters who've left the game without contacting support. It'll also help guild masters manage their guilds, because they'll be able to look down and see who hasn't played for 20 days or 14 days or whatever we set that to.
Yeah, we're still discussing.
Would love
exactly
some feedback on what's a good number of days to before a player gets marked as inactive from some of you guild masters out there. If you could let us know. To me, it's kind of like it's kind of 3 weeks really. If
we try to give players 3 weeks in case something's happened.
Yeah, but I would think maybe 3 weeks, but maybe more.
Yeah.
And the thing is that due to privacy concerns, we can't actually show you the last time a player played very, very easily on a lot of platforms. So, it's a privacy issue where we can't show when a person was exactly online. So we have to be a little bit careful about how we do this, but marking a player as inactive is fine.
Yeah.
You just need to figure out how long that is. That's one area. Oh, we'd love to do some redesign of guild shields and put some new stuff in guild shields. That's just a cosmetic thing, but having unlockable things for guild shields would be really, really cool. But I think one of the most important things for me is finding better ways for guilds to advertise.
Yes, the advertising and
so
recruiting.
guilds can advertise through chat. They can press a button in their guild and it will put out the chat message automatically for them. Not spam it. You got to have a cooldown on that. You can't just sit there pressing the button. And players will be able to click that message and auto join that guild if they like that message. And if they qualify for the requirements, which we also need to fix. More requirements for joining guilds.
Will there be any guild updates in 4.0?
Do we have any guild changes in 4.0 that you can think of?
I don't believe we did, just because there was so much with the new maps.
Maybe a couple of bug fixes.
Yeah.
They'll be in the patch notes, which we'll have out for the day before release.
Yeah.
But there haven't been any actual guild fixes in 4.0. But we believe us, guilds are next on our list. Guilds are so important to a game like Gems of War. Have players working together as a team. And sharing information and communicating. Improvements to guild chat would be high on our list, but that's going to have to wait probably a little longer, unfortunately, than the next update. So, but definitely before the end of the year.
Can another rank in the guild have permission to remove a player?
Yes. Can another rank in the guild have permission to remove a player? It's a tricky question because if you get a rogue other rank who starts removing people, it caused some issues, and we had issues with that originally, but in theory I'm okay with that. I'm okay if under certain circumstances ranks 2 and 3 can remove people, for example. If rank 3 could remove inactive players, that might be okay. If rank 2 could just remove people like the guild, anyone of lower rank.
Yes,
okay.
because we don't want
guild coups where rank 2 decides to remove the guildmaster and promote himself.
We don't want any Lannisters to happen.
No red weddings in Gems of War. In theory, we're okay with that now, though. Our system should handle that better, so we can definitely do some stuff like that.
And we are aware that a lot of players would like us to add an activity log. It is actually high on our list to work that back in and make major improvements.
It's one of our top 3 items actually is activity log.
Activity log.
So you can see who's doing what, who's contributing, who's done really awesome things in the guild that week. You can even sort by more things in the roster, for example, like contributions. You can just have a look in the roster to see who's contributed the most that week. Would love to get some more detail in the roster.
I have one more question for the guild section.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Are there any changes planned for legendary tasks?
Are there any changes planned for legendary tasks?
What?
Oh, I think we may have just...
What are you doing?
Did we just freeze?
No, it's still happening over here.
Okay.
Is it moving on screen?
We're not moving on screen.
Okay, give me one
Well, we are on one screen, not another one.
And the other screen looks like we're...
Maybe your voice is still going through, though.
Hello!
I'm sure your voices are still going through.
Can chat give us a sign if you can still hear us?
Let us know.
Send us a sign.
Anyway.
Shoot up a flare. We're going to keep talking anyway, just in case you can hear it.
I think it was just Sparko Cam.
Okay.
It's just this stream.
No, this is paused.
Okay, that's why we're not moving there.
Right.
Yeah.
There we go.
Weird random glitch. It wasn't much of a glitch at all, apparently.
Okay. The camera made a funny noise,
so
we got really excited because normally that noise meant.
It's a new camera. It's only a few weeks old, so we're.
So legendary tasks. Did we?
No, there's no changes to legendary tasks at the moment. We'd like to. So some guilds have been let's jump back a couple of years to when we implemented tasks and legendary
Yes.
tasks. So we put the task system in, which was about 16 million gold per week that a guild would put into the system. And some guilds found they had more gold than the 16 million. So we're like, okay, we'll give you guys some legendary tasks. And at that stage, guilds were completing about 4 legendary tasks per week.
Yes.
The top guilds, some maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 was, I think, the maximum anyone actually completed when we first brought legendary tasks out. It was a smallish number. We're okay with that. Cut to about a year later, and guilds were chewing through rather large numbers of legendary tasks, to the point that we removed, you'll probably remember, we removed the gems. A little bit contentious at the time, but we just couldn't have that many gems flowing into the system with guild wars happening and extra gems coming from guild wars. So
Yes.
it had to be a thing. So currently we're seeing guilds complete well over 100 legendary tasks. In some cases, one guild saved up and completed 600 legendary tasks in a week. That's a lot of legendary tasks, okay?
Yeah.
So we're reviewing legendary tasks. I don't want to say we're nerfing them because we haven't
No.
decided anything yet.
We haven't
But-
made any decisions or plans, but one of the problems with so many guilds completing so many tasks is it fills up their mail, and then they miss out on the extra rewards.
Yeah, and it's very hard for us to, once mailboxes have been filled up and mail's been lost and the guild's gone through and done a whole week's worth of stuff, it's really hard for us to figure out how to reward that player. So I think at the moment their support policy is with the guilds that are doing where that happens.
Yeah.
We've let them know to check their mail and or don't complete all your guild tasks on one day.
Yes.
And I don't believe it's more your department, but we're basically not compensating any lost guild
No.
tasks at the moment. It's not as simple as expanding the mailbox because we can keep expanding
Expanding
it,
it.
but people's ability to
We
complete guild
already,
tasks
the first time
outstrips
this
their
happened,
mailboxes.
we expanded the mail from 50 messages to 100, and then players filled that up.
We may look at consolidating the mailbox, some of those mails together, so that we get some of the rewards from the guild tasks pushed into a single mail, so that's not so much of a problem. Also easier for you to go through your mail, not just seeing hundreds of legendary tasks completed. And I want to stress this is only the really, really high-end top guilds that are doing this on each platform. Most guilds are completing.
That's one of the
only
reasons
one or two.
we don't want to hit the rewards. We just
Yeah.
want to look at how are players receiving them. How do we stop them from missing out? Or
keeping your economy healthy in a free-to-play game, it's hard, right? But sometimes we have to make tough choices, like removing the gems, where the economy of the game needs to have its inflation hit on the head with a very large hammer. And inflation happens in these games over time, and we need to run Gems of War for many years, we hope. And so we'll keep an eye on guild tasks. Like I said, I don't want to say we're nerfing them, but we may need to look at some other ways that people need to spend gold, for example, because the amount of gold flowing into the game has grown, and that's what the problem there is. And a lot of that's coming from tributes.
Yes.
And from just the number of PvP games you can complete.
Because I think at the time we only had like maybe 20 kingdoms.
And 4 times speed. People can complete more games on 4 times speed, so more gold flows into the system. So we do a nice feature, but it affects the economy, even though it's not an economy feature. It's the beauty of game design. Things come from left field that you didn't really expect.
We're always having to try and kind of plan for things we didn't
But
understand.
in 4.0 at least, no changes to legendary tasks.
We don't have any immediate changes for the next couple of months.
The only thing is we may look at consolidating some of the tasks into a single mail. And we can do that server side. That doesn't need to be in a release. That could happen any time when we can slot that into Cliffy, our server guy's schedule.
Yes.
Next one?
Yes.
Okay. Why did you change the map graphics? And I'm going to put up a GIF that shows the new map graphics.
Cool. Why did we change the map graphics?
Well, we were getting the Underworld drawn.
So we had to do a new map. And honestly, the old map when you zoomed in was fuzzy looking. I think it was a nice map 4 years ago when we got it done. 4.5 years ago that map was drawn. And the game released 3 3/4 years ago, so it was drawn 9 months before the game was complete. It just looked a bit old. I thought it looked a bit tired, looked a bit fuzzy when you zoomed in. There's no animation on it. I mean, I just thought there was so many nice things we could do now.
We wanted to make the map bigger, so you didn't have as much black space when you were navigating.
Oh
the
yeah,
map.
that black space around the edge bugs the heck out of me. It
So-
really does.
We wanted to make the map bigger. It allowed us that if we zoomed in, could have bigger spaces on the map. That if we wanted to take sections of the map and then use them for future kingdom content that we had once chucked around as ideas, we had that option.
Yeah, so zooming in's great. We've got a lot more detail on the map. But I wanted to get animation onto the map. I
There
think.
was that too.
Having some rippling on the water, subtle rippling. It's not. I was a bit worried it might be too heavy, but the subtle rippling of the water is really lovely. And you can adjust the quality of that. If you don't like it, you can turn it on or off. Having some particles, having kind of clouds and snowflakes falling up in the north, and having the little aurora up over Stormheim, the aurora in the sky that shifts around. That looks lovely. Dust clouds rolling across the desert will look really, really
There's
good.
lava that comes off some of the blighted land.
all these embers kind of shooting out, and doing the same to the Underworld was very important. Also, I didn't want to spend all that work making a new map. It just kind of looked that old 4-year-old style. It was like, let's do something kind of more current that makes the shields pop out more too.
Yeah.
So it's partly about getting the shields more visible. We did get a little bit of feedback when we released a screenshot that some people thought the shields might be harder to see on the new map. I'm quite confident shields are actually easier to see. I think when you see them in action on the map, those detailed shields on kind of that geometric shaded map, I think they pop out really nicely.
I have two questions about the map. The first one is, can you go between the old map and the new map? And the second question is, where is the hero menu? Because it's not down the bottom anymore.
Good questions. So, moving between the maps?
They mean the old graphics.
The old graphics.
No.
No.
Unfortunately, you will not be able to turn the old.
We flirted with the idea of that, but it looked really jarring, moving from the old world map to the
new Underworld.
To the new Underworld map. And also, we wanted to make the map 3D, so the mountains had some height. So as you moved the map, you can kind of see the mountains move a little bit against the background. We just couldn't do that with the old map. So because of the new 3D map particle system, the old map's gone forever, unfortunately. Oh well, I think fortunately, actually, I love the new one.
Yeah. As for the hero menu, it's actually now the hero portrait.
Up in the top left, you'll notice we've changed that, and we've got a little tutorial when the game starts. It just points you up there and says, hey, hero menu's moved up to the top left. We've put blue lines around it so it looks more like a button, and you can just tap that to open up your hero menu.
Yeah.
That's it we've got for the map rework. Would you like me to move on to the next point?
Yes, please.
Let's move on.
Alrighty. Free for all. Would you like to say anything before I start fielding questions?
Do we want to talk about our special news?
Oh, so we'll be at PAX West in a couple of weeks. Nim and myself will be over there.
We don't have a booth, but we will be roaming.
We'll be roaming, and we'll have our Gems of War shirts on with our Syrian and Nim Hain written across the back.
Like this.
Nim's wearing hers today.
I'll try and swing it around.
You need to cut your hair, Nim, so they can...
There you go. That's the best I can do, I'm sorry.
And I've got the equivalent one that says Syrian. If you see us at PAX, please come up and say hello. We'd love to meet you guys. We have also got some art books with us, Gems of War art books. I was going to bring one to the stream and wave it in front of the camera.
I can grab one.
If you could quickly go grab one.
Quickly go grab one while we chat.
So these art books were done back when the game started. So the arts won't have any of the new art or stuff like that. It will have like the old avatars. We keep meaning to update and do a new one.
Yeah, we want to do a new one. These ones are kind of cool though, because they're quite nostalgic to look at if you've been in the game for quite a while. They've got some of the old art in there. They're lovely hardcover books with about a 30-40 page book with Gems of War art and some little snippets about the game. I believe we had this huge production run of them done, and we gave some away for prizes at PAX Oz, and we've given them to lots of people that work with us. Hey, Salty's brought us one back. This is the book here. There's only 8 left that have not been given away, so we'll be giving away the final 8 walking around PAX West. So if you see us, come up and say hi. If you're one of the first 8 people that finds us, you get an art book.
So there's a lot of stuff. Sorry, I'm just randomly picking pages based on what my hands can grab. So it will have, like, it's even got the really old banners.
The old banners and some of the old characters. And probably bits of old UI in there as well.
And even the old backgrounds.
Oh yeah, and the Broken Spire image that we never used.
Yes, Broken Spire's original
original artwork that was never released in the game.
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff like that in there. We'll have some of those to give away.
Yes.
And please come up and say hi. Ask us any questions. We're happy to talk about Gems of War
We love talking.
for hours. Yeah, we
Thank
do.
you very much.
Alrighty, ready for this?
Yes.
Mhm.
Will you be at PAX Oz in October?
Will we be at PAX Oz? Good chance.
Yeah.
We haven't made any plans, like we haven't booked tickets.
It's literally 5-10 minutes walk from our office.
So there's a really good chance. We probably won't be there the whole
Every
weekend.
day. Usually on the Saturdays you'll find us there.
Yes.
Once again, wearing shirts. Maybe we might do some cool giveaways for PAX. We'll see. PAX Oz. We'll see how
Yeah.
we go.
Another one is, can we buy Nim's shirt?
No, I need them. Sorry.
But I believe that their publisher 505 is going to test a little bit of merchandising.
Yes.
So they're going to put out a few Gems of War t-shirts for sale. And we'll be interested. We'll keep you guys posted when that happens. We're curious on your feedback of maybe what you'd like to see for merchandise.
Yes.
But 505 would love to hear that. And
We're
the game's big enough now we can make merch. It's really awesome.
So we're probably just going to start with t-shirts to begin with,
Yeah.
and we'll probably work with our publisher and over certain designs and all that kind of stuff. But if there's something that you're like, oh, I love this meme, or this meme really signifies gems to us, please let us know, because maybe we can do a thing like Nerf goblins.
Yeah. Nerf divines.
Yeah.
Why are we releasing the new kingdom before the new patch?
So everyone has a chance to complete Sin of Mirage before the Underworld, so you can go straight into the Underworld.
Yeah. Also, we're a little bit overdue for Kingdom.
Yeah.
And this one was ready to go, so
Yeah.
we thought, why hold back? Let's get it out, and the patch will be out.
Yeah.
The update will be out
So
shortly after.
one thing
anyway.
I wanted to clarify, just because this has popped up a few times, is Sin of Mirage is not the Apocalypse Kingdom. They are two separate areas.
Yeah,
But they will share a little bit of art.
they shared a name for a little while while we
Yeah.
were working on it, and I think some of that got leaked in one of the files, and then some people maybe thought Apocalypse and Sin of Mirage were the same thing, but they're not.
Will the soul cost in the Soul Forge be reworked, especially for lesser and major Traitstones?
Soul costs for Traitstone is being reworked.
We don't have any plans at the moment, but we may come back around to the Soul Forge in the future.
Yeah, I'm curious if you guys give us some feedback about what you think there. Yeah, no plans to rework that right now. If you can give us some feedback about, I'm going to guess you're asking that because you think it's a bit high. And souls are a tricky one because endgame players quite often have over 1 million souls. So,
It's one of those things where we play a balancing game. We try to balance things for many different ranges.
yeah.
And so
So if you see soul costs are a bit high, it's probably balanced a bit more for endgame. But we could look at that. If you guys give us some feedback on that, we'll go and investigate.
Yeah.
Sure.
Somebody wants to know a little bit more about the Unity bug that causes the game to freeze and lag a little bit.
Oh, the Unity
Unity
bug.
bug.
Yeah. So
You know more about this one.
yes, okay. Unity. This is still an open issue with Unity, and it's going to be an open issue in 4.0, but it's not going to be quite as bad.
We've put some stuff in to help.
So
with it.
for any technical programmery types out there, there's a memory leak in Unity. When you create a game object in Unity under certain conditions, it's leaking a little bit of memory. That's not like a lot of memory leaks. It's not an issue immediately. It kind of builds up over time, and the larger the memory leak, the more it builds up. As it turns out, Gems of War is making and releasing a lot of game objects, and so over time, particularly as you go into and out of the troop menu, a lot of game objects get created, and bits of memory leak and start to cause lag. Unity have issued a kind of a half a workaround for this, so we can get around it a little bit, and we can mitigate that problem a little bit in 4.0. But we're still waiting for an actual release from Unity that fixes the problem entirely. It's obviously a nasty one. Once you spot a memory leak, usually you can drill down and fix it with a few days' effort. I'm going to guess it's quite a serious problem affecting a lot of games. It's obviously very hard to fix, or Unity would have it fixed by now.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing we've got to wait for here is because we released the game on 5 different platforms, or 6 if you include Amazon now.
Yeah.
We've got to wait for a version of Unity that supports all those platforms without bugs. So when Unity release the fix, we've got to make sure the version does not have any other worse problems, particularly for Xbox and PlayStation, because we have to keep all of our versions of Gems of War in the one version of Unity.
Yeah.
Little fun question.
Yep.
Will we ever release a physical card game of Gems of War?
will we ever do a physical card game? We have actually discussed this.
We discussed this at Dryad. We're really big board
Okay,
gamers.
miss.
We have a board game wall in the office. Like,
We should take a
so-
photo and post it
we
on
should
the forum.
post a photo of our board game wall.
Yeah.
We play so many board games.
As anyone who's talked to us, or if you're trying to find us at PAX, good chance to find us. It will probably be in the
so
tabletop area.
The answer to that question is look how excited we just got about the idea, right? We
Yeah.
talk about this a lot.
Yeah.
I would love to. I wish the board games sold better.
Yeah.
And then it would be an easy decision because it would just be like, hey, we'll make some money if we do this. I think if we do it, it's a passion project, right? It's something we do because we really want it to happen. And that's you got to find time for those. But I would love it. It would be so cool.
Yeah. That'd be. Oh my god, yeah. We have people who just get
Hey,
really
give us-
excited to see our business cards because we had
They're
the
so
true card
good.
in the back.
So give us some feedback, guys. What kind of
Board game.
board game or card game would you like to see? A deck builder?
Builder?
I don't know. I love deck builders like Dominion. I think that would sit pretty.
I
well with
love
Gems.
Legendary.
Legendary, actually,
Yeah.
yeah, Legendary.
But there's also the cooperative deck games like the Dresden Files.
I played Dresden
The
Files on the weekend. That's
Yeah.
really fun.
We really enjoyed that one. So we're very much cooperative players as well, but we do enjoy that little verses because we do have that rivalry. It's anyone who's heard us discuss Guild Wars,
Yeah.
we juggle who's
I mean,
powerful.
Nim's been trying to beat me at stuff for years. It just she can't.
Except Carcassonne. I whoop your ass.
Yeah. What is it with Carcassonne?
Is there any plan to do a beta test on Xbox?
Beta test
It's
on
on
Xbox.
It's
No.
If short answer is
Sorry.
unfortunately we can't, just because we don't have an environment that's easily set up there.
So generally, to beta test on Xbox, we'd have to set some really clever stuff up. I think companies probably do beta test on Xbox.
Yeah.
You'd have something in game where it would just switch across to the beta test. That's not really going to be possible for Gems. We'd have to have two applications out there, a main application and a beta application.
Yeah, and one of the other reasons, and this is why we don't do a lot of beta testing on like iOS, and that is we don't want to accidentally mess up your main game because we want you to beta test
So
on
PCs and Androids are really great for beta testing.
because you can have
So
those separate
For now,
environments really easily.
we'll probably keep the beta tests on those.
This is for Shiva. Why does the Dryad wear a blindfold?
Hey Shiva.
Why does the Dryad wear a blindfold?
It's because like she has to spend a lot of time in the sun photosynthesizing.
Yeah.
And I think they hadn't invented sunglasses back then, so I imagine
Yeah.
they put. I just made that up, Shiva. I'm sorry.
We actually don't have an answer. That's just how she was drawn. Really, we gave the artist some reference, and they're like,
I like
hey,
to think maybe it's, in this sense, is for you, Shiva, particularly, that being a tree in the forest, there are just so many bunnies around the Dryad. She wears that blindfold so she just doesn't get too excited and distracted by the bunnies, maybe.
maybe this is how she becomes one with nature. I don't know.
Question is, are keyboard hotkeys planned for PC and Steam?
Hotkeys.
Keyboard hotkeys. Okay. We're a little bit careful with hotkeys. I'll be upfront with you guys here. Hotkeys lead to more botting. And we have a bot problem in Gems of War, as you probably know, and we ban bots like crazy. And the problem with hotkeys is, since we put hotkeys in, we're going to get more bots. We're going to have to ban more people. I don't like doing that because it just gets easier to bot. So we're discussing. I would like to have the hotkeys. I think hotkeys serve a lot of really great purposes.
Yes.
If you've got disabilities and stuff, hotkeys are a great form of accessibility, and we understand that. We're going to weigh that up and talk about it. Won't be in 4.0, but we have to, it's a discussion that's currently happening in the office. But just to let you know, it's not just as simple as yes, let's have hotkeys. It could be, but there's things.
We would have to
problems.
put certain things in to try and stop or mitigate the pods.
So the discussion we had where we left it last week was we want to have the hotkeys, but we've got to put some stuff in that detects when you're botting with the hotkeys in particular, and stops you or warns you or bans you, and those two things have to go hand in hand.
Yeah.
I've got two questions that kind of tie into each other. The first one is, how do you feel about being a developer? And the second one is, how do you apply to work with Gems of War?
Okay.
How do you feel about being a developer?
I don't it's just I've been doing it for so long
Tired.
now. Oh no,
Sorry.
that's what copy's for. Copy was invented for game development. Oh no, I love it. Everyone thinks it's just playing games. It's not. I just really love creating things. I've been creating things since I was little, and then I just found a job that let me do it and be paid for it.
Yeah, I wanted to be a writer when I was a lad. Because we didn't have computer games back then because I'm old. We did have computer games, but I didn't know they existed. Right, I was at school and I used to read a lot of books. And I wanted to write, and so I love to make things. I like building, physically building things as well as making games. So to me, it's kind of a bit of a calling to make stuff. And because I love games and fantasy so much, I just love being a dev. I actually quit medicine to do game dev back in the 80s. And I'm really glad I did. I think it's the best job in the world.
I was also really curious about how games are made, and I'm really glad I found out.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder than a lot of people think.
Yeah, and it's not sitting playing games all day either. It's most of my job is writing documents.
I spend more time in front of spreadsheets than I do anything else.
I still love writing the documents, right? Because you get to see the game evolve with a team, and everybody's doing their bit, and it all comes together. That's just great. How do you apply to work for Gems of War? Well, we have a jobs@infinityplus2.net email. You can send your resume to if you want to go on file here. When we have jobs available, we'll post on our Facebook page, I believe. Usually we're looking to hire from the local area, or at least if not in Melbourne, then kind of in the wider Australian area. We're not bringing in overseas applicants at the moment. When we do have a job, we always advertise through the IGDA pages. So you'll see us advertising there, and that'll link back to the jobs page on our website when that's up. Currently no jobs, unfortunately. So there's nothing here right now, but if you want to send us a CV and have us put that on file so that if anything comes up, we will contact you. Please go ahead, send to jobs@infinityplus2.net.
Is it possible to rotate the orbs that are given out as rewards in events?
So rotating orbs that are given out as rewards in events. So,
which orbs do you mean? Do you mean the ones that you get in the leaderboard, or the ones you get?
I think they're talking about the major orb of growth, I suspect.
Probably.
I think so. It's going very quickly.
So Chaos Orbs naturally rotate stuff, and I think if we're looking to rotate them, we'll probably just put Chaos Orbs in everywhere, because they tend to send stuff out in the right right amounts, in the right proportions.
Yeah.
So you tend to get more growth, less wisdom, less of the other ones.
Ascension.
Less ascensions and a few clans. Very, very rarely you'll get an Orb of Power pop out of one.
Yeah.
I've actually had it happen once. But
I tend to get ascensions more.
Growth is the most common though. So we give out Major Orb of Growth at the particular level we do, because that's a level that beginner players can get to, and a Major Orb of Growth is very useful for a beginner player. So that one will probably stay there. I know some of you guys are probably getting too many Orbs of Growth. But just bear in mind that one's there for newer players. That tends to be a level in the event that they can reach, and really having that and enabling them to get a legendary up to level 19 in one hit, it's a really big deal for a new player. So that's kind of cool.
All right, people are talking about marrying Australian girls to come and work here, which is interesting.
Okay.
Maybe we could start a business on the side.
Oh!
What, the Australian male bride?
Excuse me, me and Syrup are married to each other. We can't marry anyone else.
Well, I wasn't talking about marrying up our developers. Maybe we could actually find some
we were
nice
talking about
Australian girls.
Russian bride. Russian male brides.
These are two questions from a bit earlier, but I would like to ask them. Is there going to be a Puzzle Quest 3, and will Warlords 4 ever happen? I'm sorry, Steve.
always you guys with the questions about Puzzle Quest and Warlords. Will there be a Puzzle Quest 3? Almost certainly. I mean, Puzzle Quest's huge, right? It's 10 years old last year, or early this year. It was last year, 10 years old.
Last year.
Time for a new Puzzle Quest, right? So I'm trying to make it happen in the background. The same with the Warlords, by the way. This answer applies for Warlords, but more so for Puzzle Quest. Trying to make it happen. I would love one. When you look at a game like Marvel Puzzle Quest, a Marvel Puzzle Quest license is doing so well, right? It's just it's kicking butt up there in the free-to-play charts on mobile. So people know Puzzle Quest. They like Puzzle Quest games. I would love another classic Puzzle Quest like number 1.
Oh yeah.
I'm hope to have a bit of news about this by the end of the year or early next year. I'm actively working on making it happen, but we'll see. As for Warlords, that's a harder one. Poor old Warlords has not had a release since 2004. It's been 14 years since the last Warlords. So either a Battlecry 4 or a Warlords 5. Once again, it's something I'm constantly talking to investors, publishers about to try to make that happen too. I'm a big strategy gamer and I love those Warlords games. I would love for either the turn-based or the real-time one to happen. I think personally, the turn-based Warlords has a bigger chance of happening next. A Warlords 5, perhaps, or just Warlords Revisited. I don't think you put 5 on the end of something after 14 years. That doesn't seem quite right.
Yes.
I think that's got a bigger chance of happening because there's kind of a bit of a turn-based vibe out there at the moment, whereas RTSs, they haven't really, they kind of stagnated, I guess, and StarCraft 2, to me, was the last good RTS. They kind of evolved in a lot of different directions. I'm not seeing a Warlords Battlecry 4 happening anytime soon, but turn-based Warlords, it could be a thing.
Any plans for a Gems of War 2, or will Gems of War just continue?
So Gems of War 2 or Gems of War Forever?
Well, now I think it's Gems of War Forever.
I agree. Look,
well, we've got a lot of factions planned for the Underworld.
Yeah, so I always wanted to work on what we call games as a service, which is just supporting one game for years and years and years, because it used to be kind of sad. You'd make a game, you'd release it to the wild, and you'd be done. And sometimes you get a chance to do an update, but quite often not. And
then you'd come back and you'd be like, oh, we could have done this.
And you'd do a sequel, and maybe the sequel will be a hit, and maybe you get some stuff wrong. But games as a service, it's really fantastic to be able to make the changes. You see them out in a couple of months. You get feedback, whether they were good changes or bad changes. You can adjust some stuff on the fly and maybe do the next update with the feedback you've got. It's like we're building a game with all of you, and that way you're getting exactly what you want, and I love that. So my vote's for Gems of War just continuing on. Now there will come a time where Gems of War gets really, really complicated, and there's so much stuff in there. So we're going to be very mindful of that as well, and try to keep kind of working on the structure of the game and making sure the stuff is revealed in a nice fashion to newer players, so they can keep playing it.
That is on our list, going back and having a look at that.
But one day, probably another Gems of War game, I suspect.
Yeah.
But not planning that in the next couple of years.
Is there a plan to stop the 1,500 seal cap so that higher players can contribute more seals and lower players don't have to?
Good question about the seal cap, and that's something we'll be looking at for the guild update. I think that'd be nice. I think it'd be really nice for some players to be able to contribute more seals in some ways. We want to look at that system, and it functioned okay when it released, but I think we can do so much more with it now. So stay tuned on that one. We'll have some more news on that in probably 4.1 or 4.2.
I had another question. Let me just quickly find it. Yes, people want to know if there will be a PvP rework for 4.0.
No PvP rework in 4.0. No, Underworld is quite enough to tackle in one go. We've got a PvP rework on the schedule. It's kind of going to be next year, though, I think, at the moment. Not to say we won't make some tweaks and changes to PvP. I want to change some of the matchmaking algorithms. I really want to get into those, and that's something we can do on the server, perhaps. It's not going to happen for 4.0, right? It's going to happen maybe later this year or early next year. But I think teams become the meta, and then you see nothing but that team. We see it at the moment with Divines, particularly at higher levels. You get a lot of Divine teams, and we're sympathetic to that because we play at those levels too, and we're fighting a lot of Divine teams. We play lots and lots of PvP games every week. Not as many as some of you guys, but a lot.
No.
And, it's okay to have a meta team, but it would be nice if it got served up with different teams, just to break it up for you. I think that'd be good.
All right, I think this will be the last question that I'll ask you as we're running out of time.
Cool.
I think this one is quite relevant. Are we still planning to be able to redo quest lines for players so they can do the stories again?
Redoing quest lines, yeah. We want to see the feedback on Underworld, I think, is the idea for this, because I would love to go back and replay some of the quests myself, even though I wrote them, I can know them rather well.
I don't know. Some of the dialogue's really funny.
It cracks me up because I got a memory like a goldfish sometimes, and I forget I've written stuff and I'm laughing at my own jokes. But yes, there is a plan to do that, and we want to see the feedback on Underworld first, and what you like and dislike about Underworld, and we may roll some of that stuff back into how we reserve the Kingdom quests.
Yes.
But I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you would like to say?
I'm done. We did a little PAX West advertisement, didn't we?
Yes, we've done that.
Just stay tuned for Sin of Maraj this Friday. It's a lot of fun. Some of the new troops there are really, really cool. And there's some beautiful art too.
Oh, I love the art.
And it's a neat little story. So thank you, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, listening to us talk non-stop for 1 hour. Hopefully we answered a lot of your questions. We'd like to come back to this maybe after we're back from PAX West.
Yeah.
Do another one. Maybe chat about how delvels are going with you guys, and maybe chat about some stuff that's coming in 4.1.
Yes.
But thank you very much for listening. Take care.
I'll be streaming tomorrow. Watch me.
And don't miss Salty tomorrow. Salty will be streaming.
She's going to have some of the Cinema Mirage troops.
Yeah, so you want to see them actually in action. Tune in tomorrow and watch Salty play and kick some butt with Sin of Maraj. You'll also see some of the new graphics from the new update too, so it'll be pretty cool.
Yes.
Thanks everyone.
See ya.
Bye.